We've got some fantastic brands, loads of great experience. I'm sure you're going to get a load of value out of the discussion here. So we've got Carla, Jerome, Lenz, and Maria. And I'll let them do their intros once everyone's kind of in and settled. Two mics, guys, so feel free to share between yourselves.
Sure. So I think it works. So
Are we good? Is everybody in? Let's just wait for everybody to get in and settled. You're not supposed to leave, you're supposed to stay. Right, let's crack on. Anyway, Carla, do you want to go first? Yeah. Introduce yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your experience in this space.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. I'm Carla Jesus. I work for Adidas as a senior PO. My main experience with chatbots. I'm the product owner for Adibot, and right now also building Rebot and the connection of Adibot with Amazon for voice over IP. I'm Portuguese. I work for Adidas since 9 years, but with chatbots since 2017. And that's all.
Great. Maria?
So my name is Maria, and I'm working as a project manager at Nestle. So basically, my role is more focused on helping markets to understand if they need a chatbot, assessing the use case, the best technology to build that, the development phase, and the post-go live. And I joined Nestle around 3 years ago when they built this global digital hub. So when we started, it was about 70 people, and now it's about 400. So it's been kind of impressive.
So my name is Len Debets. I'm working for KPMG. Within KPMG, I'm managing a team that's working on a SaaS solution that's called the Digital Advisor. And basically, we're building a platform for larger corporates because we see that a lot of companies are struggling with scaling this technology up. And we're trying to connect all the dots.
And finally, Jerome, very on brand, by the way, loving the chatbot t-shirt.
Exactly. So I'm Jeroen Das. I'm the product owner of the chatbot platform at ABN AMRO. Actually, we started in 2017 with a small POC with Anna immediately already. And 2 years later, we are building, the conversational AI chatbot platform for the bank, actually to enable different business lines very quickly and provide them with their chatbot technology.
Great. These guys have all got a great story to tell. So let's start with Maria, because you've Nestle, a global recognized brand, obviously anything from food to pregnancy, right? Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, the markets you've been working in, the languages you've been covering over the last couple of years.
Sure. So I think the first bot that we launched was in 2016, and since then we have launched bots in 24 countries, covering kind of 5 consumer channels and 11 languages. So for instance, you can have in Germany, we have 3 chatbots, a recipe one that is helping you to find the best recipe based as well on our products, then another one for the CES team, so kind of helping the brands and the agents to cover the most FAQs. And another one is more focused on Nescafé Dolce Gusto, so helping on selecting the best machine and the best capsules. So we kind of cover a range of use cases, so it can go as well on nutrition, kind of helping on the pregnancy, helping on tips for mothers. So we can cover kind of a wide range of use cases.
Great. And Carla, thinking about Adidas and the journey that you've been on, like what value is Adidas getting out of using bots?
yes, so when we start with Adibot, it was mainly focused to serve consumers for post-sales inquiries. As we know, there is a lot of questions that are coming over and over with time. It's boring job for call centers. It's low-value interactions for consumers. And we saw a reduction on cost with Adibot, but we wanted, or we are still working on bringing Adibot to the next generation. So we don't want only to answer the most frequent questions. We also want to use Adibot as the rep when you go, for example, to a store, you always have a rep helping you to decide what is the best product, and if you have any questions or if you have any problem with the payment, whatever it is, there is a human being there. So we thought, how do you do that in online, right? So if we see online is the most important store that we have right now within Adidas, and how do we give the interaction of the human interaction to the consumer when they have a problem in a one-on-one conversations without driving ourselves in a huge amount of cost by hiring a lot of people trying to get to all the consumers. So that's where we're now, that's the direction that we are going with Adibot, is to have a one-to-one interaction with the consumers, personalized 24/7, and in any type of questions that the consumer have that a machine can actually help. Does that answer your question?
Great. No. So we've heard from Adidas, we've heard from Nestle. Let's talk about financial services, because financial services will obviously have its own challenges. It will have regulations, etc. You are probably or potentially talking about financial data with your clients. Like, what are the challenges unique to FS, do you think?
Well, I think you point out well that we, of course, have to deal with a lot of the regulations, but there are ways of dealing with it. I mean, of course, we can't just sign up with a third party and use their cloud and to discuss with the customers a lot of personal data. But that's something you have to deal with. So basically, we look for a combination of making use of third parties' capabilities, but make sure that all the privacy-sensitive information for GDPR compliance, that kind of stuff, that it remains on-premise.
Great. And what are the types of queries that you're helping customers with? So we've heard about recipes, we've heard about post-sales, like in financial services. Like, what are the queries that you're helping with?
Well, we now are looking for the queries which generate a lot of volume. So the more generic questions which the people typically ask a bank once they're trying to execute the services themselves. So think about all kinds of actions around card services, around their payments. They can see strange payments in their overview. So what's this about? What is LGN, for example? And that type of questions. Yeah,
cool.
And problems.
And you mentioned platform then, and certainly working with some of my clients in the DACH region, there are some challenges with cloud-based services, especially within that financial services space. Len, talk to us a little bit more about what you're doing at KPMG and how you're trying to create something that is, I guess, a generic platform for just about anybody to get going, right?
Almost. So briefly, let me introduce that, because what we see in the market is that the first wave was already done. So we see the most generic use cases in the market, the most customer-centered use cases in the market being developed by every company around the globe. So we have the retail bots, the pregnancy bots, but that's the case. That was the last years. Every company was focusing on these use cases, and now you see the second wave is coming. All the companies are focusing on internal use cases as well. So how can we use legal knowledge to help our internal organization? How can we do internal IT support? And that becomes a challenge for companies because they now have multiple use cases to manage. So in order to scale this, you have multiple vendors, you have multiple AI systems, you have multiple SMEs, like people who really know the context of those bots. You see a lot of integrations with systems like SAP or Oracle. And this keeps on building because this is not something that goes away for companies. And I think that's why Jeroen is building it for ABN AMRO themselves, because they see this as well. This is growing, keeps on growing. And we try to do this for companies on a larger scale in order to leverage the power as such.
Cool. Just a show of hands from the audience. Who's actually already on the chatbot journey? Show of hands. Who's already deployed, is actively involved in a chatbot deployment for the business that they work in? Okay, so what, 5, 6, 7, 8? Okay, cool. Who actually believes that the business is looking at chatbots, so it's something that in the future it's an avenue that they're going to maneuver down? Okay, so most people are seeing where there's value. I'm probably going to touch on that point now, right? So let's talk a little bit about KPIs. Let's talk about benefits. So there's obviously always going to be the financial benefit. You know, if you've got an agent who takes, it's €3 a contact versus a chatbot that is 3 cents a contact, significant financial upplay there. But what are the other benefits? Like, has anyone got any great examples of where revenue's increased? I mean, I'm looking particularly at you, Cal, because I'm thinking, is there something in the Adibot where you are able to at least see a revenue uplift, perhaps, rather than just a cost outplay? Is there anything in what Adibot is doing that you think is relevant in that space?
So currently we are still work in progress when it comes to sales. However, like we all heard all the patterns about a digital assistants, right? So when you go to a store, an online store, for example, and you don't find your right size, it's not only about chatbot, it's about automation. So how can we give the right size to a consumer using the information that we have from them? It might be a chatbot talking to the consumer, but it might be also your history with the company. And if you use artificial intelligence in the right way, you can collect the interactions that your consumer had with you. You can collect the communication that you had with the consumer. You can use the birthday date. You can use the likes and dislikes from social media. And when you come with all this information together and you create one profile of the consumer, the potential of uplifting sales is just, it's there. Like, I think there is no question about it. About KPIs from Adidas as such, we're still work in progress. So on that, I can't really answer your question. So maybe I just give it to Maria.
Sure, maybe an example I can give is we built a bot for Nespresso. It was a global bot, so it was available in kind of 5 or 6 countries. But we actually experimented with the US where we were launching push notifications, and the first one was on Valentine's Day. So we were selling machines. So I can say that more or less up to 15% of the machines that were sold on the website were coming from the bot. So kind of we saw that people were engaged. Of course, then there is the work on keep sending these notifications without spamming. But I think we saw something interesting there. About KPIs itself, I think we are more focused now on understanding if we are doing a good job on the NLP performance, so understanding if the bot is actually classifying properly instead of just classifying the utterances, because this is something that I would say most of the platforms, and I'm pretty sure you've seen that as well, but are actually just classifying to the default intent instead of saying this should have been classifying to another one. So we are very focused on this and also merging sources from, merging analytics from several sources. So we're not just staying with the platform, but we're combining Facebook with custom metrics, with Google Analytics, and having kind of an overall view.
Great, excellent. Okay, you briefly touched upon the team and optimization, right? So for anyone that's not already in this space, optimization of your bot is of utmost importance. It's never a one and done, right? You're basically putting something live, and then you are literally having a small team constantly reviewing that performance. Have you got any specific KPIs around that? Anyone? Containment, so the number of successful journeys a customer flows through. Have you got anything around the number of customers that are falling out? How about initial intent recognition? What are the KPIs that you have in around about that space or not?
Yeah, so the current chatbots we are building are merely service-oriented. So that's all about actually being able to help a customer from end to end. So containment is one of the bigger topics to measure the performance of the bot on. And as well, of course, is that we also very interested in, of course, the accuracy of the bot. because one step deeper, you want to help the customer end to end, but if you don't meet your KPIs, basically, you want to look at the underlying KPIs. What could be the problem? So that can be the accuracy in the sense of false positives, true positives, etc. It can be the way our copywriters or dialect developers provided the answer that is not clear enough or not completely applicable to their situation. So basically, if you look to the top overall KPI, then you can look for containment or the amount of conversations or the amount of FTE you reduce in the contact center or calls you reduce in the contact center. But you need to be very well aware of all the underlying KPIs which you can actually measure and which actually provides you a lot of insights of where actually the potential is to improve your bot.
Great. And Lens, do you have any particular KPIs specific to your platform, or is there any that you would recommend people are adopting on their chatbot journeys?
The short answer there is it really depends on the use case. So what I see from a business perspective in all use cases is that they all currently are business driven. So yes, you can measure user satisfaction, retention, touchless handling, accuracy, and the list goes on. But in the end, the boardroom wants to see, okay, is this creating value for a company? And that's something that's very hard to measure just by the chatbot itself or the use case itself. So you still need some people around it to actually talk to customers or to talk to specific teams or employees in order to make the analysis or business case if it's worth this and if you should continue.
Yeah.
And I think what we try to do in the platform, and then I will stop about that, but what you see is that you want to make it as variable as possible. So if you want to measure a specific flow or a specific element, let the use case creator decide what's the KPI for that specific use case. Great,
cool. Conscious that I've got loads of questions I can continue to ask these guys, but this is as much about your participation as my own. So a couple of questions from the audience, guys, if that's all right. I'll start at the front.
Thank you for the explanation. We are talking about how you use KPIs to measure like the success of a chatbot, but how do you compare towards other technologies used before? Like if you compare the chatbot towards like an ordinary web form used before, or compare it with like a real person, do you measure like the customer satisfaction with their of their interactions with the chatbot? I mean, we are a government and we are looking in using chatbots as well, but I mean, for us, like user friendliness is very important. If people get stuck with chatbots, then it's quite bad for our image. So it's not really we look for value, but we want it to make easy for people contacting us. And I mean, I think that's a hard one to put your finger on. Like, how do you compare it to older technologies? Is the technology evolved enough to be used with success?
Well, basically, what our experience is within the bank is that you don't position a chatbot on a specific page and that's it. What is actually the right way to do it at the moment is basically always make sure that there's a human behind it. So make sure there's a warm handover between bot and agent in cases a customer can't work it out with the chatbot. If you also look to the containment rates around the market, well, if you have 40%, you have a really good bot. But what it can actually help with, and that's what's the important thing about a warm handover, that besides solving the query, you can also look into that a bot already does the intake and the routing to the right colleague to solve the actual problem with the customer. And actually, in that part, there's already like a world to gain for most companies, and it would actually help you actually in, well, maybe you route it to the right mailing server or to a live chat agent, or you redirect them to WhatsApp or whatever your channels you are on.
Maria, did you want to answer the question as well? And then, of course.
I just wanted to build on that. So, of course, I would also suggest on doing kind of a POC. For instance, it might be that your audience is actually not looking for a chatbot, so kind of testing it. And you can see a lot of things on the analytics. So, for instance, if your consumers are asking for other things, that you need to add on the chatbot, that's something that it's important as well. You can also ask for feedback. So we do have chatbot at the very end. We actually say, did I help you with this conversation? And then this is being sent to the agents, and you can see more or less what's the percentage. And as well, you can actually ask this question after each intent detection, and then you can enhance the bot. So I think there are a lot of things that you can do to actually see if the user is happy with that, but you will never know if you don't try it.
Well, one follow-up, maybe when you start with a project, do you already know this will be my finality, or is it like this is the direction we are going, and depending on how it goes, that will, our finality can shift?
I think it can shift a lot. Like you can start with one kind of use case, kind of FAQs, which is the most basic one, but then you can build on that kind of either from the beginning because the business saw that, or when you have something built, you can test it with internal people or just consumers in a very a specific group, and then you can actually extend that. I don't think it's. I would be surprised if someone said that this is what I wanted and this is how it finished, and I didn't include anything else.
If I can add on that as well, I think one important thing to realize in this domain is that it's not about the technology. So every project you start, it's like 80% your organization, governance, training people, making sure the dialogues and the interaction is positioned right, and 20% is about training the AI models and making sure everything is set up in the organization. And that's really a key mindset you have to take, because that means that you have to have a team, or you have to retrain people in your organization, or your call center has to have different capabilities in order to make this work. So it's not a magical formula that technology will solve the problem, but if you use it right, then you.
I think that's a really valid point, right? This is the technologies are so similar. This is definitely not just a technology play. This is the team, the process. It's thinking about it, not necessarily from a technology perspective, but from a customer experience perspective. You are designing conversations using a technology, but it's all about the designed conversations, not about which tech you use. We have another question over here.
Yeah. Hello, I am Ali Naderi from Porsche Informatic. First, thank you for, in fact, a nice discussion that you had. I have a question from you. As you know, one of the important assets for all chatbots are to be intelligent. Unfortunately, as we saw today in the market, it's just simple, not just very simple, but it's like a simple interactive decision trees. So, for example, we we give the user, the end user, some option, and then we force them to select one of these options, and then based on them, we go to the next step of this decision trees. So my question is that, did you previously do some steps toward to address this, in fact, issue to make the robots, chatbots, this dialogue system, more intelligent, or in the future, do you have any a step toward this issue, to address this issue? Thank you.
Yes, so the thing is, like, you need to start somewhere, right? To build a database that is complete enough to allow you to have a conversation with the consumer, you need to start somewhere. We did start with simple tree decisions, so we have 3 use cases. Very simple ones. It was just no, and then do we help you? Just no, and then go to engaging in case we didn't help. That allowed us already to build utterances and to build a database that it was good enough to start having conversations with the consumer. So then we transformed these 3 use cases from a tree decision to a conversational experience. We do offer still the tree decision, so it's up to the consumer, and it might be that in mobile it's easier to clicking a button. It might be that in desktop it's easier for a consumer to type with a keyboard, right? So we do give the option to the consumer to select what do they want. And as Maria say, it's not a process where you already have your goal defined. You go, you try it, you see with the consumer, because whatever you're doing for the consumer. It's not for your company, it's not for yourself. Because if you do it for the consumer, then in the end it's going to to help the company and to help the KPIs. Now, once that we have already 11 use cases, we have 6 languages, we are migrating to new channels. We are seeing how consumers also talk to us in different channels. So also the conversation via phone and via chat, it might be different. Via social media, via chat is also different. So we have to have all of these in consideration to build a good database. And after that, I think that is the step when you can say, okay, let's remove the tree, let's remove the button, and let's give the option to the consumer just to talk to us without any effort. And it's up to us then to analyze that conversation and to give the best outcome to the consumer, right? But you cannot start from there, from the beginning. My recommendation to everyone that is building a chatbot is start small, start very simple, and go with the flow, analyze every single step, and analyze every single conversation with the consumer, and have always a human to support in case the chatbot doesn't.
Great,
If I
feel
can
free.
add-
Any more questions though? Yep, cool. Right, go ahead, Maria.
Just to add a quick thing on that. So basically what we have done is we're building conversations as a graphical way. So basically we're allowing consumers to jump within the conversation, not just selecting on buttons. So as next steps, we're going to use reinforcement learning on that. So I think it's good to actually not always guide the consumer just on buttons, but anticipating. So for instance, as a consumer, I might be asking on recycling or fair trade, but as next step, I can be, oh, by the way, is there any store nearby me that I can buy any capsule? And by the way, you know, I'm having a dinner and I don't know what to cook, and help me on that. So I think as a humans, we do that, right? So I think the bot can actually help on that as well.
Cool, next question.
Thank you. I'm in financial services. We use a chatbot for sales. We find that customers happily engage with the bot in quoting stage. When it comes to providing the financial data to fulfill the transaction, they tend to want to break out into the call center. So any tips for end-to-end fulfillment in the chatbot space? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm guessing these guys, well, actually, Jerome, you're in financial services, right? Do you see that as a problem? People being cautious of providing their financial data to a chatbot, but happier to provide it to a person, potentially in an offshore location. Like, surely the chatbot would be more secure, right? What's your view? Do you have any challenges with customers being reluctant to provide, I don't know, bank account number, sort code?
I think we are more in the phase that we ourselves are very cautious with that. That we are looking, like, for example, so yeah, customers are not really eager in providing their financial data that much, or financial information. But from a banking perspective, do you actually want? It depends a bit on the use case. We are sort of experimenting with different sales projects as well, but what we want to touch on more is that actually directly come to a sale, is that we are basically touching on different live events that customers are running into. So we provide them insights like, hey, this is going to happen. For example, hey, you're 25, you just graduated, maybe you want to buy a house in 5 years. Do you want to start saving for that kind of stuff? And then in that kind of way, as a financial service, as being a bank, then we sort of go around actually going into the personal details themselves, but we're more looking into providing the customers insights like, hey, expect this is likely going to happen to you. Did you already thought about it? Do you want to do something with it? Stuff like that. So in that way, we sort of, in that way, we are very cautious in actually going into the financial details with customers during a chatbot conversation.
Okay, I think just from my own opinion as well is, you have a fantastic opportunity to A/B test in this space, right? So, test. It's all about the language. How's the bot asking for the information that you need? Is it saying how secure it is? It's all about the language and the ask. If you're just saying, can you give me your bank details? People are probably right now thinking, why would I want to give my bank details to a bot? If your bot is saying, I'm a Uber secure, your details are going to be safe, and other bits of language around security, maybe people might be a little bit more okay in giving your details to the bot. So I think A/B testing is really important in that space. If you come up with any challenge, the ability to A/B test is definitely one way of at least trying to increase your containment, I guess increase the number of customers that are successfully passing you information. So experiment. I mean, that's a key thing, right? All you've done is you've experimented. You know, you've improved what you've been doing through experimentation.
Yes, and I have something to add there. I don't think, at least from my point of view, from my experience, I don't think that the consumer have any problem to give to a human or to a bot. It's more the channel that they're using. How secure is the channel that they're using, right? And how do you set the right expectations to the consumer? As Wayne say, if you tell the consumer independently of the channel, this is what I'm doing with your data, is encrypted, is secure, the consumer will have no problem to give it to a bot or to a human. So it's not really about human-bot interaction, it's about how you treat the data and how secure is a channel to provide data. That will be my personal opinion.
Cool. Any more questions? I'll come over here first and then we'll go over there, okay?
Maybe a question for Carla. Are you able to tell to somebody who calls, maybe I have a problem with my ID boost, it's not the right size, and then you direct him via the chat box towards the right team, and then the chatbot is also able to tell him, oh, by the way, we have sales on this t-shirt that would be great for your running, or that socks, and then you boost the sales that way? Is this something you already do or look into doing?
Yes, so we have, there is two parts of the question. So the first part of the question is, can the bot take the input from the consumer, analyze it, and provide the best output, being that the best output can be a human or it can be also another bot? Yes, we're working on it, so that we get information from the consumer, we analyze it, and then we try to provide the best outcome. What we are trying to get away from is to standardize experiences, right? So not because you ask for an Ultra Boost, we can assume that you want a t-shirt, right? So what we're trying to do is get away from the today idea that the consumers have certain expectations and they always follow the same experience. We're getting more into the point that we're building a strong backend, so that we can analyze each and every single interaction of the consumer and not assume, because most of the consumers want A plus B, that the consumer, in this case, Imagine Maria, would like also to have A plus B, right? So that's one of the parts that we're working on it. So send the consumer to the best fit. And the second part of your question is, yes, we're also working on collecting all the interactions and then not assume the consumer or not push a sell, assuming that the consumer will react the same way that 20% of the other consumers do. So we really want to go into one-to-one interaction. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay.
Great. We've got another question over there. Can we pass the microphone that way? Yeah, just throw it, it's fine. Thank you.
Hello, just a quick question that I hope is not off topic. Like, it sounds to me that a lot of the focus is in understanding which is the right answer or the future need of the consumer. But now Carla was talking about the experience. The experience is 360 degrees. So what about behavioral chatbots, in the sense that it's not just what you say to the consumer, but also how you say, I don't know, how you deliver the information?
Yeah, so what I see with a lot of use cases in various companies is that it usually starts with the IT project. So how can we set it up and create this use case and make it work? And then after the first POC, they see, okay, the interaction is not at the level you would like to be. Let's include the business as well. And I think that's a fundamental flaw, that from the beginning, it has to be a business project. And you have to include the SMEs and people, experts who are already doing these interactions today. Because your clients or your business relations already today are doing these interactions. We're just automating them. That's what you are doing. So it's not reinventing the experience, it's automating the existing experience.
Yeah, and I would like to add on that there are also some great consultants out there who are looking in the psychology behind the way you are saying what you are saying or you're answering the question. So to give one example, that if you don't want to be one of those the more dumb bots, you're not going to say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't understand you. Can you please rephrase it? That's it," or "I don't know anything about the subject." So what you try to do with certain ads on your chatbot is basically you're able to say like, "Hey, I'm not the type of agent who can help you with this, but maybe you can look here and here and here on different ways which could help you out." And that way you get a way different experience. Customers get a different experience with your bot than just saying, I don't have the answer."
I think the future is definitely where, and if you look at some thing like Soul Machines as well, where it's actually a visual avatar, because I think the vast majority of us know that it's not necessarily what you say, it's what you do, it's how we as people communicate with our body language as much. So like technologies like Soul Machines, where you actually have an avatar expressing as well as being able to talk and communicate, I think is at least where one area of progress has been made. I'm presuming you've heard of Soul Machines before?
Yeah, but also, I mean, like bringing the experience to a next level. So like if you have chatbots with soft skills that understand the user from how he replies, and so he basically tries to adapt his behavior to the user. So like, because really like when you are with a shopping assistant, okay, if he or she is really good, try to understand who is in front and try to adapt his behavior in order to like basically make the experience really nice for you, and you will.
So I'm just going to switch to voice skills, but at the end it's just bots as well, just instead of chat on voice. So we had a case of infant nutrition. Let's say you just been a mom, you have this kid and he's crying, and you're talking to the voice skill, and instead of saying I need help, you're just I need help right now, and you start screaming. So if the skill is recognizing this tone, this how you are actually speaking to the voice skill, then instead of just asking you the 10 questions before handing over to the human, you can realize, well, this person needs help, so let's do the handover straight away. So it's not just about asking, it's about understanding how this person is feeling. With voice is different than chat, of course, but I think you can do that, and I think you should do that. And it's not just about presenting the information; it's about understanding what the consumers want. And I think with voice, maybe it's more easy to do, but with chat as well, it's about putting a tone and a vocabulary that it's fitting your consumers' need. And we have a case with recipes as well. That it was kind of funny because we placed 3 bots within one bot. So depending on if you were a beginner on cooking or you were more advanced, you were talking to the mother, the grandmother, or the expert, and then you were actually switching from a bot to another one. So I think as well, you have to ask the consumer, do you know how to cook? If you're just doing pasta, then maybe you want to talk to the mom, but if you're already more advanced, let's just go to another tone of voice, vocabulary, and a bot that can help you better.
Great, cool. 5 more minutes, guys. Any more questions from the audience? We've got one right at the back. Just lob the microphone, it's fine.
So we have a fairly new chatbot. So the customers are still getting used to working with it. But sometimes we see that customers only use keywords, or exactly the opposite, that they use their whole life story to ask their question, and the chatbot gets confused, of course, and then you get the incomprehension strategy, and then they get stuck. So how do you go about handling these cases, or teaching the consumer how to work with the bot the best way?
just to start before handing over, I think it's important to manage the expectations. So when you build a chatbot, you have to tell, I'm doing this, I'm able to help you with A, B, and C. Because otherwise people will tell you the Bible or will just say, well, today I had a bad day, you know, I went driving and it started raining. I cannot help you with that, right? So just manage expectations, and then it's important to actually do an intent detection rather than a keyword, like understanding, for instance, I want to buy a product, I want to see if there's a store nearby, I want to get information rather than just focus on keywords. But I think...
I cannot add anything else, I think. I think what you see typically is that you either used intent-based chatbot technology or keyword-based technology, but today you can also combine them. So I think that's the answer to your problem, because in the end you want that intent-based because you want the more sophisticated questions and types, but still you want to detect the key frames or keywords in order to tackle these simple phrases.
Great. I think the other thing to add is consumers, right? They're learning to use chatbots, and unfortunately, as we will see here, each of the chatbot interactions that a consumer has with each of your brands will probably be quite different. Sometimes it's keywords, sometimes it's radio buttons, sometimes it's carousels, sometimes it's free text. Like, we haven't got a standard, and so as a consumer, you're probably confused because like the way you interacted with the last chatbot with the last brand might be quite different to the chatbot that you're now having to interact with the next brand that you're interacting with. So I think we're in a position where, you know, if we looked at the hands in the room earlier on, there was maybe less than 10% of people are already deploying chatbots. Maybe 30, 40, 50% are going to. So if we as brands are still only 1 in 10 brands alive with something, that means consumer use of chatbots is probably still relatively low in the grand scheme of things. So I think we're just very early on in the consumer adoption curve, and that will be one of the reasons why there's no right way or wrong way for each individual consumer to interact with each brand. So it's just where we are in the adoption curve, I would think, as well.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Right, we are on time, I think, right? So I just want to say thank you to the audience, first of all. Great questions, everybody. Really, really interactive session. And obviously, thank you very much to our esteemed panel, who I thought were fantastic. So big round of applause for you and for you.